I have this little book that I carry around me wherever I go, and it's, just full of photos. So it's just people going about their daily business, in a city, during wartime. So I used my off-duty hours to roam around Saigon shooting approximately 1,500 black and white photos, the ratio being about 1,000 black and white and about 500 color. Behind me is the remains of the St. George BEQ, Bachelor Enlisted Quarters. I lived in this facility from January of 1970 until September of 1970, 9 of the 12 months of my tour. Oh, you speak English?
Yes.
Okay, I lived in this room in 1970. 70, by Moy. And I asked them, would you like to see what Saigon looked like almost 50 years ago? And they go, sure. And they start looking through this thing. Feels great to be back here. This is the first time I have been in this room since 1970. When I lived here in 1970, we have 3 men, 1 bed here, 1 bed here, 1 bed here. I first came to Vietnam in September of 1969. I was in an Air Force unit that was tasked with teaching English to the Vietnamese Air Force as part of President Nixon's Vietnamization program. To my right, we used to go up on top of this water cistern and smoke marijuana in between shifts. It didn't go well. The technique that we used is a pretty antiquated technique for learning a language. It's the speak and repeat, parroting back to the instructor while trying to read the book. Our task was to get the Vietnamese enlistees up to a level of English where they could understand an English language technical instructor and read an English language technical manual. The first few months were very, very difficult, primarily because of the different levels of education of the students. Like some students would grasp it pretty quickly, but other students just were right out of the rice paddies and had had a very rudimentary education in their own system. So that made the job more difficult, the disparity in learning ability amongst the students in your class. So some of the students were bored because we kept repeating the same material over and over again. And some of the students, just couldn't get it. We never were informed at what the washout rate was, but I think it was probably pretty high. Regulations are really relaxed in a war zone. Here we had women, unlimited alcohol, and some of the most potent marijuana on the planet. There was also a large concentration of brothels and gorilla bars and massage parlors. So, catering to the needs of the 18 to 25-year-old young men who are away from home and in need of servicing, shall we say. So, those are all gone because, the business dried up, so to speak. So now it's just shop houses. These were women who had come from the countryside, escaping the fighting, and they didn't have any skills. They were, rice farmers or, young girls who had no skill sets. The only skill set they had was their bodies. The soldiers fathered the children, and then when their 1-year tour was up, they left and went back to the United States, leaving the woman and the child behind here in Vietnam. And they became known as Bui Doi, dust of life. particularly children that were fathered by black soldiers. The children of mixed race, I hate to use that term because there's only one race, humans, but mixed race children were terribly persecuted. I have pictures of children, wearing the only clothes that they owned, shorts and flip-flops or barefoot and a shirt with patches on it, and one guy sticks out in my mind. He was not first generation, he was second generation. Brought his 2 kids in and he says, "Look at these 2 kids. I want you to take a real good look at this photo. You got 2 drawers full of underwear and 2 drawers full of socks and 10 pairs of shoes, and you're always complaining about me wanting to buy you something new. Take a look at these kids." The kids are going like, "Dad," like chill out.
Thời đó còn xe 67 nè.
Yeah.
67 nè. Xe Momilet nè.
Cúp rồi, cúp
67.
Cúp.
Those pictures give me a lot of things, a lot of kind of cyclo people, and I know many things in the past that I haven't even known.
Tạm biệt.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye bye.
I'm feeling great, man. That was awesome. It's one of those little surprises you get, when you make a little bit of effort. The first thing that comes to my mind is how much the area has changed. This was formerly a military compound, and now it's transitioned into a typical Vietnamese mixed commercial and residential neighborhood. It also brings back a lot of nostalgia to come to these places, places that I recognize, places that I photographed when I was here. And it just gives me a good feeling to come back to these places and see how much they have changed over the almost 50 years now. No, that's why there's a tremendous amount of interest in this body of work from 3 generations. People who, my age, who lived it, their parents, and their children. Now, a lot of my pictures of women, most of them are wearing ao dai. Now, the only women who wear ao dai are those engaged in tourism or the hospitality industry, or they work for a company that requires them to wear an ao dai as a uniform. Most of the women now are wearing dresses, Western-style dresses, or skirts and blouses, and Western-style shoes and stockings. This view, back then, there was nothing but grasslands. So we would come up on the roof at nighttime and get high, and we would watch the flashes from artillery fire and the gunships strafing, so we could see the war going on about 10 kilometers away. Sole surviving what they call a tropical combat uniform. A lot of people who were in combat in the Army had a really rough time. As soon as they got discharged, they burned their uniforms and threw away all their medals and everything. It radicalized me. I was either going to be a drug addict, an alcoholic, or I would kill myself. So I made a decision to get myself kicked out of the Air Force. There's a lot of petty stuff, like letting my hair grow too long and walking around with my hands in my pockets and not wearing my hat when I was outside. And it was just a series. I just became a royal pain in the ass. End of story. And 3 weeks later, I was out. I pulled off to the side of the road. I gave the security police a double finger salute, got back in my car, and I drove to Venice Beach, California, and became a hippie. From the day I got out, I started letting my hair and my beard grow, and I didn't shave or cut my hair for about 8 years. I'll tell you one thing, the Vietnamese have done a much better job of getting over the war than the Americans have. A much better job. They're very, very resilient. They're hardworking, they're resilient, they're tough, they're strong, and they're not to be messed with. I mean, look at the progress this place has made in 44 years. If you had been here in 1975 and seen the level of destruction that had been rained down upon this country and the progress that they've made in the past 44 years, it's just remarkable. I mean, the traffic, I mean, there's 7 million motorbikes here now and 700,000 cars. And, the road systems has improved. There's these overflies by the airport. That whole area has changed. I mean, I was just astounded, like looking out the window, like, what, man, this place is like, the growth was unbelievable. And then they turned into a modern metropolis. So I spent wandering all over Saigon, a lot of time pounding the pavement because you can't get any good photos if you're, riding in a vehicle of any sort. You have to be able to stop when you see something you want to shoot. You have to be able to stop and spend a few minutes there shooting, whatever attracted your eye in the first place. Never experienced a negative reaction to any of the photos. I've experienced a full range of emotions around the photos, but no anger or hostility or resentment around it. People would come in and people would laugh, some people would cry. I mean, some of these old ladies would just almost faint. People would come in and point to the pictures and go, oh, we used to live around the corner from over there and we used to shop at this place. And, they were on the brink of tears, just seeing these photos that reminded them of their homeland that they had to flee from under great duress. I think the Vietnamese are pretty nostalgic about a lot of stuff. And bittersweet memories, I think, would be a good description.